with regards to this. Amen. Let's open the Bible up today to Kings. 1 Kings, chapter 19, from verse 1. Again, 1 Kings 19. Now Ahab told Jezebel everything Elijah had done, and how he had killed all the prophets with the sword. So Jezebel sent a messenger to Elijah to say, "May the gods deal with me, be it ever so severely, if by this time tomorrow I do not make your life like that of one of them." Elijah was afraid, and he ran for his life. When he came to Beersheba in Judah, he left his servant there. While he himself went a day's journey into the wilderness, he came to a broom bush, sat down under it, and prayed that he might die. "I have had enough, Lord," he said. "Take my life. I am no better than my ancestors." He lay down under the bush and fell asleep. All at once, an angel touched him and said, "Get up and eat." He looked around, and there by his head was some bread baked over hot coals and a jar of water. He ate and drank, then lay down again. The angel of the Lord came back a second time and touched him and said, "Get up and eat, for the journey is too much for you." So he got up and ate and drank. Strengthened by that food, he traveled 40 days and 40 nights until he reached Horeb, the mountain of God. There he went into a cave and spent the night. And the word of the Lord came to him, "What are you doing here, Elijah?" He replied, "I have been very zealous for the Lord God Almighty. The Israelites have rejected your covenant, torn down your altar, and put your prophets to death with the sword. I am the only one left, and now they are trying to kill me too." The Lord said, "Go out and stand on the mountain in the presence of the Lord, for the Lord is about to pass by." Then a great and powerful wind tore the mountains apart and shattered the rocks before the Lord. But the Lord was not in the wind. After the wind, there was an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. After the earthquake came a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire came a gentle whisper. When Elijah heard it, he pulled his cloak over his face and went out and stood at the mouth of the cave. Then a voice said to him, "What are you doing here, Elijah?" He replied, "I have been very zealous for the Lord God Almighty. The Israelites have rejected your covenant, torn down your altars, and put your prophets to death with the sword. I'm the only one left, and they're trying to kill me too." The Lord said to him, "Go the way you came, and go to the desert of Damascus. When you get there, anoint Hazael king over Aram. Also anoint Jehu son of Nimshi king over Israel, and anoint Elisha son of Shaphat from Abel Meholal to succeed you as prophet." Let's all sit back down. Slightly weirder sermon between Easter and Pentecost, but I still consider it an important one. I want to tell you guys an experience that I've lived, and it's likely that you guys lived it too. The feedback that I've had from a few people that I talked to with the idea of this sermon was enough to say that they also lived through such experiences, through such events, times. And so I believe that it's important for us to speak about it. I believe that Brother Mihens would have been more entitled to preach the sermon. I had issues with hypertension, and the doctors didn't know what was going on, how to solve them. No medication was working for me, and ultimately they told me that maybe it's because of all the stress that I have. And then the doctor said, "No, I don't think it's stress based. I think it's burnout." I didn't know what burnout was. I didn't know what it means. I googled it, and in fact, I made I understood this difference between stress and this exhaustion, this burnout. I tell you guys a few things that the doctor spoke to me about, and I found myself in them. And he says, for example, with this syndrome of burnout, it favors this exhaustion. He used the word exhaustion. It sees certain problems with the heart, hypertension, troubles with the endocrine system, with the nervous system, that increases the risk of depression. And I said, you know, out of all of these, I don't have depression yet. He carried on, he says, a state of emotional exhaustion, mental exhaustion that appears in the background of during your workplace and can also be provoked by a prolonged period of stress. It reduces productivity, it decreases energy. The respective person feels overwhelmed emotionally and incapable to put up with the constant requests of their daily life. Almost constant stress, physical and overwhelming emotions. It also results in changing sleeping schedules, a detachment from the outside world, losing motivation, a more cynical perspective of life, isolating from one another. And I did find myself in a lot of things that I was reading here, delaying things constantly because you can't feel like you can fulfill the deadlines. Addiction to coffee, addiction to energy drinks, redirecting your frustrations onto other people. The person arrives at work late, leaves fast. I did find myself a lot under these words. There's a poem that says, "The nights are too long, too lonely, waiting for your arrival, Lord. Too many wounds are burning in my chest, and my hope is dwelling thin. I ask that you hear me, Lord Almighty, from your heavens. I miss and I long for you. I miss you, Lord, and I want to see you. I want to speak to you. I long for you." I found Elijah. He was also exhausted. He says, "God, I was zealous for you." In 1 Kings chapter 18, if you guys remember, one chapter previous, there was a competition of gods. Which god was better? Do you guys remember? And after Israel's God wins, sets the altar, the sacrifice on fire, the queen at the time sends Elijah a phone call and says, "Listen, when I catch you, you're dead." And this man of God, Elijah, after winning this competition with God on his side, after proving to everyone how great and how mighty God is, he runs away in fear, in frustration, in almost this shy, depressed state of fearing for his life. He runs away. And today we want to speak about this state of spiritual exhaustion, of this shyness, of this syndrome almost. It comes from a candle that is set on fire on both ends. And that's what happens when you set a candle on fire on both ends. You don't solve nothing. It burns away quicker, and nor do you have more light in the room. In life, you guys need to understand that there are no mountains without valleys. The good news in all this that happened here with Elijah, this prophet, to suffer from this illness that I have now for a few months now. You know what strengthened me? I read in Jacob, and in Jacob it says Elijah was a man like any other. In other words, he wasn't Superman. The moment when you realize when you realize you have no power, you have nothing left, you see nothing beautiful left in life, you need to realize that all of God's men have at one point or another walked down this path. There are others that have experienced this. I experienced this today. My other colleagues, other pastors have either experienced it already or they're about to. And we realize that, there's a lot of us that are tired. Tired is the word. Tired. That's why we can't answer positively to things that stand before us anymore. Let's look at this text again. Let's look and see what are the signs of this exhaustion. And the first thing that we see in the text, that it's almost a classic manual to this syndrome. Firstly, we depreciate. We don't see our value anymore. Our value in our own eyes depreciates. The first thing that happens to you when the devil comes to you and takes over your mind, and you've played with fire too much, with this candle, and it's all melted away now. We have one life, only 24 hours in a day and only 7 days a week. We believe that we're not good anymore. We're a big fat zero. Maybe our parents have told us. We understood it. Maybe our friends have told us this. But the hardest is when we say this to ourselves. Do you know, when you tell yourself, I am nothing, I'm zero. You compare yourself to others. You see others who are stronger than you. You see people who have strong, happy families. All children, successful children, on God's path, or healthy. We compare ourselves to others. And you know what I thought about in the past few days? You know, they have the same wounds as us, but maybe they can hide them better than you. I compare myself to someone who's smiling every day, but he has the same wound that I do. And I say, you know, look how amazing this guy is. And Elijah, one of the greatest people that God ever had. Elijah says, I'm not good for anything. I suck. You start criticizing yourself. You become your biggest critic, your worst critic. You feel guilty of everything that you have done, that you haven't done. Everything's bleak, everything's ugly in you. You don't see anything good left in you. There's a Russian poem. Let me say it before it gets cancelled. There's a deer, a story about a deer. A deer was looking at his feet. A big, beautiful deer had big horns, big horns. And this deer was looking at his feet. Look at my feet, look at these sticks. And then he'd go drink water, and he'd look in the river and see his face. Oh, look at these horns. These horns are amazing. Look at my amazing horns. Look at how handsome. Oh, look at my ugly feet. Amazing horns, ugly feet. Twig feet, no muscle on them. So one day, the hunters got him in the scope and started chasing him. Guess who saved the deer? His ugly feet. Guess who killed the deer? His horns. He got his horns stuck in a tree. He got his horns stuck in a tree in a few branches. Got him stuck there, and then the hunters executed him. You know, the moment when you see everything ugly in you, at least the deer saw his horns as beautiful. But spiritually and physically and intellectually and emotionally, when you look at yourself and you search yourself and you don't see anything beautiful, everything's ugly, everything's bleak. That's the first warning that there's something wrong. That you're getting close to this burnout. Secondly, not only we depreciate our own value, but we depreciate our work. We depreciate what it is that we have done. We felt, what did Elijah say? I was zealous for you, Lord, but you know what? They burnt all your altars. They burnt all your altars, they killed all your prophets. Ultimately, what have I worked so much for? Why did I suffer so much for? Why did I go up on the mountain and did the whole theater that God set afire, that altar? Why did I kill 450 prophets? I haven't realized anything in life. You know, not only hate your own life, but you hate everything that you've done, your whole work. That's what it says. Look at someone else. Look at Solomon. In Ecclesiastes it says, I hated even the fruit of my work. I hated them. You find no joy left in everything that you've done. You look at the house that you built on for your whole life. You built it with your own hands. You built it with your own hands. You invested it in yourself. And you can't stand it anymore. You feel like going to bed out in the garden. Pitch up a tent. When you realize that you have to look at your children, and you realize that you've been a failure as a father, as a mother. Are these my children? Well, your children are the results of your labor as well. You start hating them. You start shouting at them all day long. You realize that there are people that are a few retards, a few special kids. I mean, you're a failure, but you feel your kids are bigger failures. And the war starts on in your house. You have problems with everything that you have done. You try to control everything. We feel like everything you have done is nonsense. It's useless. We try to control everything. And you know what we feel? We feel like we're Atlas, the guy from the Greek mythology that held the whole world on his shoulders. The whole earth sits on your back. And you know what else? You're the director. You're trying to be the general manager of this universe. And you realize that everything is gone. Everything's gone. Your whole workload has everything you've worked on has been lost. Do you guys know how much, at one point in a moment of tiredness, of hardship, of exhaustion, do you know how much John Milton sold the rights, his author rights, over the book Lost Paradise in the 1900s? He sold them for £5. At first, he took his book and he threw it as far as he could. And then he gathered it up over the ground and he sold it to an editor. And the editor, without blinking an eye, said £5. His wife sold the book for £8 later. His wife sold her share of the rights for £8 later on, for a grand total of £13. That's how much they earned over the book. I read in a newspaper. That company, the publishing company, only for the book Lost Paradise, they earned tens of millions of dollars in the next years. And he saw his workload as zero, as a big failure. We exaggerate our problems. We underline what is wrong in our life. We only highlight what we've done wrong in our life, and we forget about God's blessings. We see the cup as half empty, and we drink from the half empty side of the cup, not from the half full one. In other words, not only do we underestimate our life and our workload, everything that we've worked on, but we exaggerate our problems and our issues. Verse 10 says, I have been very zealous. I'm the only one left. I'm the only one left, and now they're trying to kill me too. Do you guys remember that a few days ago from this event, the whole nation woke up spiritually? Wasn't he up on the mountain and he set a fire to the altar, and the whole people shouted in unison as loud as they could, with as much as their lungs could hold them. They were shouting and they were saying, God is the only one true living God, the God of Israel. How could you say that you're alone when the whole nation had turned back to God? Also, what else did God tell Elijah? Elijah, before you shouted up on the mountain, I had 7,000 people. 7,000 people that have never bent the knee over this God. 7,000 people that are ready to work for me. How could you possibly say that you're alone? How could you possibly say that no one in this church is doing anything anymore? That no one in this family is doing anything anymore? That everything is a catastrophe? That if you wouldn't be in this family, everything would break and crumble apart? You're Atlas. You're holding up this whole world, aren't you? We see that Jezebel rang him. Jezebel wants to kill me, says Elijah. Jezebel, she can't wait to kill me. And he felt that the whole nation had the same feeling. I was speaking with my students yesterday. No one wanted to kill Elijah, not even Jezebel. He only sent him a phone call. He only sent him a letter. This woman wanted to scare Elijah, scare him to silence. She sent she fired a blank to show Elijah that she has a gun, she has a loaded weapon, but she wouldn't have killed him. Just like in the movies, an assassin that's paid, black coats, hat, gun in the back. If Jezebel wanted to kill Elijah, would she have sent a warning? No, she would have sent the assassin straight away with a scope, 5 miles away, headshot. Do you guys remember Garfield when he hits his head on the car and he says, you know what, it's all right. Maybe a slight tumor, a cancer, but I'm all right. No one wanted to kill him. No one. But in that moment, you listen to your emotions. You listen to your emotions more than your rational mind. And emotions lie to you. Your feelings lie to you. They're deceitful. That's why God says, you will hear the truth and the truth will set you free. Do you know what the mom of Delano Roosevelt saw? The child was born sick. The doctors told the woman, the mother, 2 months at most, and this guy's head will swell up. Poliomyelitis. And indeed, the doctors were right. At 65 years of age, not after 2 months. The mother never believed it. And the mother says, if this child for you will always be bound down to a wheelchair, will be a vegetable on a hospital bed, for me, this child will live. And the child lived so good that this child ended up being the president of the country for 4 years. He was the longest president that America ever had. 20 years he was in the White House. 20 years. The president with the longest longevity. The moment we exaggerate our problems and our issues, and when you meet someone who's dressed in black even more than you, who's bleaker than you, and you start talking to them, find good people to talk to. Find good people to surround yourself with. Another thing that happens, we push aside all our dreams. Everything that we wanted in our life, we don't feel like it anymore. Take my life, says Elijah. He didn't want anything for God anymore. He didn't want anything for himself anymore or for Israel. God lifted him up to be a prophet of Israel. And this prophet says, God, take my life. God called him to do miracles. And he says, you know what, God, take my life. I'm done. A bunch of people come up to me 4 or 5 years since they got married, and they say, I don't love my wife anymore. Amazing. I don't love my husband anymore. This is something that I hear so often. I want to tell you something, and don't allow yourself to be shocked by this. When I tell you that marriage, no matter what others may tell you, or the pastors or those people that write those romantic novels, marriage does not work on love. I want to be honest with you. Because love is a feeling, an emotion. Let me explain it to you. You have him next to you, you have her next to you. When you feel like there's times you feel like kissing him or her, there's other times you feel like strangling them. What are these? These are emotions. And we go from state to state, from emotion to emotion very, very quickly. We felt this strong love for him, for her, and we have a strong emotion to drag them through a court and to divorce. Marriage is not based on love or in emotions. Or to... let me sweeten you guys back up. Marriage is also based on love as well. You guys love that. It sounds better. Now, why do you want to smuggle it? It's a feeling. Marriage needs compromises. Needs needs 2 people for it to work. It needs character. Needs loyalty. Marriage needs maturity. I'll tell you something, you men. Some of you believe in dreams only up to you get married with a dream. And then you stop believing in dreams. You abdicate from them. Women, you too. This is applicable for you as well. And you guys need to know, you people that wake up early in the morning, that no dream is fulfilled till you don't get out of bed and start working on it. Dreams don't get fulfilled by just dreaming on about them in bed. No, you need to get up and work for them. To me, Eminescu, the great poet, doesn't really say anything. But there's a poem that says, there's no dream that will be fulfilled if you don't fight for it with blood. In supreme battles, in biggest defeats, nothing should bring you down from fulfilling your dreams. You may lose battles, but don't lose the war. Some of you ask, why this great speed? I've said that a lot of things will happen till October when we start up the new church. The need for it is I need this to work on this new dream. I need a new project. I need something to set me on fire again, to set the departments up on fire again. I'm not allowed to stop dreaming. I'm not allowed to lose this war. I'm not allowed to give up. If I end up running away from the old team that I started this work with, I'm not allowed. Next year, I'll have 30 years since I've started since I became a pastor in this place, at this church. I'm not allowed to give up now. Let's look and let's see how God took Elijah out of this mindset, out of this place. Because if you feel yourself like Elijah, maybe this sermon today is not for you. Maybe it might be for you next week or next month or a few years' time. But for those of you that feel like Elijah, that feel like it's better for you to die than to carry on living, God had listened to you, to this prayer of yours. Your kids would have been orphans by now. The first thing for you to do to get out of this state is to rest. Observe what the angel says. Go to bed. Go to bed. After Elijah went to bed, the angel taps him and says, listen, wake up, eat. Then the angel tells him, go back to bed. Elijah goes back to bed. The angel says, wake up now, eat again. He eats again. Go back to bed. He gets into this cycle of rest. Nowadays, we eat bad. We need to recognize it. We eat bad. We eat junk food. And we sleep very little. The most spiritual thing that you can do in life nowadays is go sleep your 8 hours. Go to bed. Sometimes the most spiritual thing that you can do in life is to go and sleep. Very spiritual. Remedy for the brain. We eat bad and we sleep little. We have nightmares. We wake up in the middle of the night. We have insomnia. God didn't shout at him. God didn't punish him. God told him, go to bed and then go eat and then take some rest. Tiredness makes us all cowards a lot of times. That's why you should never take decisions when you're tired. Go to bed. The only thing that you can do before going to bed is to pray for forgiveness. This is for many. This is for our soul vital. Skip dinner, go pray for forgiveness, and then go to bed. We're like the Flying Dutchman. Do you know who the Flying Dutchman was? It was a boat, a ship that started with a hope. A big ship that was called the Flying Dutchman, a phantom of a ship that wasn't allowed to enter any single port and that had no compass on and didn't know which way it was going. It had no direction. This is what we are. This is who we are. We're Flying Dutchmen. Boats that float around in the ocean without direction, without a compass, without wind without any wind to push us on, with no set destination. That's how a lot of us are. The Lord says, listen, rest your body, rest your minds. A lot of people come to us to pray for them, and they look at you when you ask them, pray for me, pray for the demons in me to leave. And I tell him, have you gone to the doctors and had some analysis done in your blood. A lot of times demons are hidden in the lack of magnesium, lack of iron, lack of calcium. And we blame the devil for all the bad things in us. Set your life up a little bit. Arrange yourself. Plan it out a little bit. Get enough rest. Eat good food. Secondly, free your frustrations. Verse 10, isn't it a little bit strange that he starts fighting with God? You know, he says, listen, I've been very zealous. It's almost like he's fighting God. He's arguing. He's shouting him. He blames God. I did everything for you, God. I was zealous. I was zealous for you. The Israelites have rejected your covenant, tore down your altars, and put your prophets to death with the sword. And I'm the only one left. And then verse 14, he shouts it all again. Have you ever asked yourself, why are there certain verses that you skip in the Bible? Why does God, have you ever asked yourself, only for the popes to have enough material? Why are there psalms of curses in the Bible? There are curses in the Bible. Why? Because David cursed people endlessly. And in fact, it wasn't anything else other than David's flushing out his emotions before God. God says, flush out your emotions before me. Our great problem is that we flush our emotions, we pour our emotions on other people. We use them as doormats to wipe the dirt off our feet. That's our great issue. Watch what God does to Elijah. Elijah, listen. God goes up to him and says, Elijah, you feel like you're bubbling. Your anger's bubbling up inside you. You feel like you're going to burst. Yeah? You're angry. You're very angry. Go on. Pour your anger over me. Say everything. Go on. Say everything that's on your soul, on your mind. Take the burden off your shoulders. All right? Say everything. And then you're going to repent. All right? That's what God does with David as well. That's how we have psalms full of curses. It's David flushing out his emotions as well. We flush our emotions over the church, over our families, over a bunch of people. When in fact, we should be spilling our pain up onto God. There was a song that says that as well. There's a song that says, don't pour over your problems, your issues, your frustrations over people, to wipe your feet onto your friends. Put all your problems and frustrations into the Lord's hands. I want you guys to understand that this isn't a solution. If you go up on YouTube and you see the Japanese that go to work, all punctual. All the seconds are very important. The boss sees them. The moment they saw the boss, okay, the boss. How did he see the boss? Straight into a machine of chopping up meat. Yeah, all right, that's my boss. That's the devil. He goes up to hell. But no word on his face, no emotions on his face. He goes home, no emotion. Friday evening, they have special rooms. You pay $50, $100, doesn't matter what it is. You go into that room, the certain room, where there's a bunch of vases, plates. They give you guys a baseball bat, and it says, all right, go smash everything. And you should see how those Japanese smash everything to bits, and they feel relaxed. They feel good. But this demon's still in them. They boil up these emotions. They bubble it up inside. Cry before the Lord. Pull the hairs out of your head. He knows your problems. He knows your issues. And God says, you know what, tell me. If you tell these things to other people, you're just going to hurt them. Tell me. Firstly, rest your souls, rest your bodies, rest your minds. Secondly, free yourself of all the burdens, all your problems, all your worries. Tell them to the Lord. Thirdly, regain put your concentration back on God. God tells Elijah, how long has it been since we spoke? Just us two. Go up on the mountain, Elijah. Go up in that cave. And I want to speak to you. Sometimes, a lot of times, you need those lonely moments, just you and God. I ask you guys, why didn't God give Elijah that gentle blow, that gentle whisper? Why did God come to him with earthquakes, with storms, with winds, with... Do you know what God wanted to tell Elijah? Elijah, I'm a strong God, but you forgot that. but I'm going to speak to you through a gentle whisper. I'm going to speak to you nicely. In other words, Elijah, I have all this strength, all this power. You felt like I've gone off on holiday, but don't worry, I'm still here. Have you seen how I crushed these stones? And yet I'm going to speak to you with a gentle whisper. Listen, if I wanted to kill you, you'd have been dead a long time ago. Take your eyes off your problems and come talk to me. That's what God's telling Elijah. Do you know why you haven't seen miracles anymore? You haven't seen earthquakes. You haven't seen rocks being crushed. God has a bunch of things to show you before He wants to speak to you. But how long has it been since the last time that you've spent some time with God? In other words, God's saying, listen, I'm at the wheel. It's fine. I'm leading this ship. You're no Flying Dutchman as long as I'm leading it. Focus on me. Focus on my power, says God, and not on your problems. Focus on my power. Have your eyes pinned on my love, on my grace, on my blessings. Have faith in me, and I'll take care of you. Have you ever asked yourself why Peter and John told the paralyzed, the blind man, look at me? All day long, that guy was looking down at his feet. He couldn't move them. The paralyzed man, he says, look at me. Leave your feet alone. Look at us. Look at us. For a whole lifetime, you've looked at yourself, your feet. You couldn't walk. You couldn't stand up. Look at me. Look at God. You look at your phones a lot nowadays. You look at your bank account statements, your bank card. Could your salvation come from there? Well, maybe you can buy a piece of bread with it. Maybe you can buy some food for the next few weeks to come. But what if health problems come and attack you? How much money do you have ready to spend on hospital bills? Concentrate your eyes onto Him, your focus onto Him. So after you've rested your body, after you've taken the burden off your shoulders, put them at God's feet, after you've focused yourself on Him, finally, take back your work for others. Do you know what God tells Elijah? Have you slept enough? Are you full? Have you eaten? Have you spoken with me? Have you told me your problems? Have you emptied yourself of all the junk, of all the nerves, of all the anger? Now God says, do you know what, Elijah? You focused on me. I've showed you the explosions, the fireworks. Yeah, all right. I spoke good with you. Gentle whisper. Now go back and work. All right? You're going to go and anoint Hazael as king. You're going to go anoint Jehu as king of Israel. And then you're going to anoint Elisei. Because Elijah, I want to take you home now. Enough is enough. Where there's no tiredness, there's none of these things. I've learned in all these years, dear loved ones, that we have problems because we only see ourselves as the center of this universe, the center of this earth. A thing that I've seen in all these years, when close now to getting to the grand age of 55, I realized that there are a lot of people that are worse off than me. No matter how great your problem seems to you, I want to tell you that there are people that are worse off than you. And you need to help these people out. When you guys will pray for others, God will answer to your prayers. When you guys will pray for the salvation of other people's children, God will save your own children. When you'll give bread to other people, God will multiply your own bread so that you can give to more people. Focus on others and their problems, because God will focus on your problems, your issues, on your behalf. Because God says, listen, I'm not going to take you out of your exhaustion, your tiredness, for you to become a selfish person. Despite your depression, your hurt, your exhaustion, God says, I am not done with you. I still need you. I still want to work with you. I still want you to work for me. In the states that you have of tiredness, of exhaustion, the way you are, God has plans for you. With us all. This is what I've learned from this illness, this sickness. I learned that if not us, then who? If not now, then when? I learned that God doesn't frustrate himself too much. He uses brave people, he uses people that have fallen down. Those who have fallen, he lifts them up. And he spurs them on to keep going. Strengthens them. Maybe this morning you came to church. In the same way that as a hospital, the doctor comes up to you and tells you, you need to eat. You need to eat so that you can keep going. But you don't feel like eating. You have no appetite. But knowing that you have to eat, just as you ate when you had COVID and all the taste was gone from the food, all the smell was gone. We haven't always come to church because we felt love for it. But I knew that if I didn't come to church, I would die. Church is like your wife, like your husband. It's not based on your emotions, but it's based on the step that you took when you got baptized, on the promises that you made here, on the character that you stepped into when you got baptized. God today, through me, wants to tell you that you've closed too much in you and you haven't told him your problems. You believed you were too insignificant, too little, too small to pour your problems out before him. And God says, it's not your problem. It's not up to you to think. It's my love to listen to you. Speak. Speak freely and openly. Tell me your problems, your issues, your frustrations, your shortcomings. My most successful sermon was when I told people how I'm now able to sleep better. But in my sermon, I didn't speak about sleep. But, I was relaying the story. And even though I was speaking about baptism with the Holy Spirit, people were interested how they could sleep better. Because you're tired. You know that feeling when you're really tired and you can't sleep. I have people that come to church like this for years, that work like this. Put on a false smile, and people ask us how we are. And for you to show yourself good, you put on a bit of makeup. You hide the bags under your eyes. Stitch up the wounds in your heart. A lot of us are empty batteries that are running on 10% now for far too long. Because we picked up 2 jobs, because we work from sunrise to sunset and onwards. We sleep little. We've gone crazy. Our worries are Our worries have pulled out all the grey hairs out of our heads. We're stressed. We're worried. We feel we have a lack of control, no matter how bad things may be in our country. Even if the Russians come over in our country and start shooting their guns, God has promised that He will be with us. God didn't promise that He will carry us in times of peace, but He promised us that He will carry us in His arms at all times. We are in His chariot of triumph at all times, whether it be peace, whether it be war. I'd like us all to stand up now. If there's anyone here